Welcome everyone to another episode of Empirenomics. My name is Al Mills, aka the Prophetic Financier, and I really specialize in helping individuals and professionals unlock their past, understand their present, and uncover their future so that they can create a lifestyle compliant empire that will afford them more income, more independence, more freedom, and more importantly, impact without compromising their time and energy. So tonight, guys, I'm very, very excited to share with you tonight's topic and conversation: contractual wealth versus transactional riches. And this is something that's been really heavy on my heart. I've spoke about this issue many times, but especially now with so much things going on in our society, I think it's very, very important that we take a conscious look at the difference between this that may aid us in what we would call our pivot, because it's time to pivot and do things differently in this landscape that we're in right now. So again, I just want to make a few shout outs to those in the room. We got the Alchemist, Normalina, Troy, we got Moss Vet, we have a few others in the room there. If you guys would be kind enough for me before we get started to kind of break the ice, is, just tap in the chat box where you're from, like exactly what city or state that you're from. Get cozy, because we're going to do a lot of great things tonight. I'm not going to keep you very long. I know this is considered the Passover, and I'm hoping that these viruses and these attacks have passed over your home and that you're all healthy and safe. But with that said, we still have to plan for tomorrow. We need to take massive action, and this is what we're here for, this platform. Hey there, we have Kimberly from Richmond, Virginia. Welcome, Kimberly. And so we're going to just band together. So this particular platform, once again, is our second episode. If you missed our inaugural episode, please follow me. Let's talk about a few house rules really quickly. Please ask your questions with the button that says ask a question. I will answer it on screen, which will help other viewers who did not come live tonight to be able to categorize the questions and go specifically to that particular piece. I'm going to also state that you can communicate in the chat box, but keep it to a minimal so that we can get focused. All right. So I'm excited. Who are the people we have? LA in the house again. LA and Atlanta. Great. The planet of the humans. All right. That's Mosvet. Okay, great, Mosvet. All right, guys. So I think it's without further ado, let's get started with tonight's conversation. I'm going to go ahead and blow up the actual slide, and we're going to go ahead and have that conversation. All right. Awesome. So let's go ahead and get started. So again, tonight's conversation is really about contractual wealth versus transactional riches. And so many folks have been indoctrinated, as I always state, in the fact that we've been taught to trade time for dollars. We've been taught to continually do things repetitiously over and over. And right now it's very, very imperative that you overstand. I'm using the word overstand. And for those of you in our community, that means you have you are in your standing when you know what you're doing. And so contractual wealth versus transactional riches. Let's get into it. So again, before we even get into transactional riches, for those of you in our Empirenomics community, we know who we are. I always say this: you don't have financial problems, you don't have relationship issues, you don't have health issues, you have an identity problem. And again, I'm not here advocating my faith or religion or any of that, but we're speaking about universal truth. And so one of the truths is this: that you were created in the likeness and the image and the universe of a creator, a source, whatever you wish to call it. Especially during this time, it's called Resurrection. Sunday's coming for those of you. Well, let's look at this. How about resurrecting your consciousness? Having a true rapture from a horizontal plane to a perpendicular standing. Let's think about that. So what I want you to remember here is, for those of you who are Christian, Deuteronomy 8:18 says, remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you the ability to produce wealth. And it's very, very important that I'm referencing this form of knowledge, because there's a difference between wealth and riches. Our society has been plagued with chasing riches and ignoring what true wealth is. Okay. And just to kind of give you an example of that, how we can measure wealth. Wealth is measured by time. And there's two major elements in our lives, processes in our lives that's the most important to us, and that is our time and our energy. So let's look at this before I move on. Let's assume you earn $10,000 a month, and your expenditures or your lifestyle, if you will, is $1,000 a month. How wealthy are you? I want you guys to take a moment and hit that in the chat box and tell me how wealthy you are in terms of measurement of time, because wealth is measured over time. Riches is accumulated in lump sum, but it can be here today, gone tomorrow. That's why we see so many lottery winners, so many professional athletes get these big contracts. When their playing days are over, they're back to the mill. All right, so I want you to understand this. So answer that question for me before I begin. Again, here's the question. $10,000 in generational income per month, lifestyle, $1,000 per month. How wealthy are you? I'll give you guys a couple of more minutes to check in the chat box, and then I'll answer that question before moving on, because it's very imperative. These are building blocks. These are blocks that are going to help you ascend, because my ultimate goal is to help you uncover your future and get you closer to your lifestyle compliancy. So this is very imperative that you get this fundamental piece. It's a paradigm shift. We're just shifting paradigms. We're not advocating any faith or religion, but it's a paradigm shift. All right. So again, you are 10 months wealthy. That means your 1 month of income can support your lifestyle for 10 months before you have to replicate it. All right. But see, if you're chasing transactional riches, then you got to keep repeating yourself over and over again. So we're going to get into how that's beneficial. So again, you need to remember who you are as a co-creator. You have the power to obtain wealth. All right. So what is wealth again? For most of you, it's not just monetary. It's your health. It's your family. It's your peace of mind. But we all understand the fact that there needs to be a ways and a means in order to take care of ourselves and our family. And more importantly, in our process, we call it impact. And you want to be able to impact others with your progression. And so it's imperative that you want to be wealthy. You don't just want to get by. So again, wealth can be measured in many things, but we do understand the fact that there's a necessity for wealth. And I want you guys to tap in the chat box again. Name 1 or 2 things of why you feel it's necessary for you to obtain wealth. And we're going to have that conversation later, but I want to just see some of the responses in the chat box to see exactly what are your necessities for monetary sense before I get into the true parallel ones that's needed. So good, I'm look forward to that. All right, so again, I'm going to share with you the most 2 prominent reasons why you want to be wealthy is you want to have defense and you want to preserve a life. And so again, I'm coming back to a book of wisdom that if you read it and you interpret it outside of the allegory, you'll get to understand. For wisdom is a defense as money is a defense. But the excellence of knowledge is that wisdom that giveth life to those who have it. And here's the thing. So many people are perishing right now because of this COVID-19, because they don't have the excellency of knowledge and how to pivot in a unusual time. And I want to give you guys an example. I want you guys to visualize this. If you were arrested, and I know it's hard to say, I'm just going to go there because they criminalize everything these days, but just assume that you were arrested. You would either have to be very proficient in legalese. I'm not going to say the law because those of you in our community know the difference between legalese and law, but you would have to be trained in legal matters to help yourself, or you need to have an abundance of money to hire an appropriate person who does know the legal process. So as you can see here, it will preserve your life. It's either you have the knowledge and apply it to wisdom, or you have money to acquire the opportunities to benefit yourself. So that's just 2 primary reasons why you want to acquire wealth. All right? Because you know what they say, a fool and his money shall soon part. So that means when you're not knowledgeable and you don't know how to apply that knowledge in the right way, it will escape you. And so here we are in this day and age right now, 2020, people are running scared. The markets are crashing, are depleting. People don't know what to do. People are being laid off by the dozens, by the thousands. Jobs are shutting down. Amusement parks shutting down. And people just don't know what to do. And this feeling of fear has come upon the people. And so this conversation that we're having is a rally call for us to implement the knowledge that we have. And that's why I'm here to share this information with you. But for the most part, family, I'm here to help you defend yourself and preserve your life. So again, this is why we need wealth. And the goal isn't about money. The goal is about truly living 100% of life on your terms, which we call lifestyle compliant empires. And so again, you will never be dictated by outside forces that are keeping you off balance. You will be able to function with precision and expectancy because you've already determined and defined your desire, and you know exactly where you're going. You know how you're going to get there. And if those of you don't know, you're in the right place at the right time. So again, this is about a lifestyle compliancy. This is not about what somebody's telling you that you need to do. You have to know what you want and what you want to do and utilize that excellency of knowledge, if you will, to get there and shelter your family, defend your family, preserve your life, all right? Again, so let's talk about this. What is transactional riches? Well, for those of you who are commissioned officers, I do commend you because being a commissioned officer, you are actually a step up from earned income in terms of taxation if you're properly structured with the right entity. But transactional riches can be deemed, again, exchanging your time for a wage or commission, but yet you have to replicate the actions over and over again. So I'm going to give you a investor definition. So basically, transactional riches is AKA a linear income. And when you trade your time for money, as I mentioned before, it's also known as work income. Again, there are people who own businesses, but they think they have a business, but they don't. They own a job because they're physically there toiling. All right. And their paycheck is based upon the amount of work that they do, not control, but the work, that exchange. Do you understand? We talked about it in episode 1. That exchange of time and energy results in a wage or a compensation of some form. And you have to keep replicating it over and over and over again. That's transactional riches. I'll give you an example. I was having a conversation with a real estate investor, and he flips houses for a living. And he was ecstatic about what he does, and rightfully so. However, I asked him the question. I says, well, what is the yield that you're getting on your investments? And he said, I don't know anything about that. I make $50,000 per transaction on my flips. And I said, well, how many houses do you flip per year? He said, oh, in the good days, I was doing 100 a year. Now maybe doing 10 or 15. I said 10 or 15. See, there was no specificity there as well. But further, we continued the conversation. And so he says about on average 10 a year at 50,000. I said, all right, so you're making about $500,000 a year. He said, yes. I said, but how many hours are you advocating to do that? Or you're exchanging to do that? He says, well, I never really looked at it from that perspective. And when we did the math on this, he realized he was making a little north of $20 an hour when he took into the account all the time that he spent running to Home Depot and Lowe's, putting up sheetrock painting, waiting for deliveries, chasing down other subcontractors. And when he really realized the amount of time and energy that he was placing into that, he realized that he was trading time for dollars. But more importantly than that, he was only as good as his last check. That means he has to stay on the hustle. And when you're in transactional riches, you're hustling. Now I want to take you back. If you know who you are and you have knowledge of self, and you know that you're a co-creator, and you know that you have the power to change physical matter because you can bring anything into your existence if you think it, be it, you can have it all. But yet you have to keep going and doing the same thing over and over again in a redundancy pattern. It's time for that to change. And so this is why it's imperative to know the difference between these two. All right, so let's continue on. So again, contractual wealth. What is contractual wealth? I'll give you another example because I believe in storytelling is the best way to share an example. And so I had another client, and I use this pretty often. He's a correction officer. I like to pick on correction officers because they make quite a decent amount of money in the New York City area, but yet they don't really have that financial gain down. And so with this conversation that we were having, he was looking at also, but apart from investing in blue chip stock, he also wanted to be a private lender. And when I asked him, what do you mean by a private lender? He said, well, I don't mean a hard money lender. I said, well, what do you mean by a hard money lender? I said, because that sounds very hard. So what do you mean by that? And so he said, well, I have a friend of mine, he flips houses, and I'll lend him $50,000 or $100,000 to do a deal. I said, and how are you compensated? He said, well, I'd rather be a partner with him because, I want to be in the deal. I says, okay, and how do you earn being a partner? And he says, well, I get a percentage of the profits. I says, okay, well, that's great. I says, so you mentioned two things to me now. You said that you were a private lender, then you were a hard money lender, and now you are a partner. So I'm a little confused about which one are you? So then he basically said, I'm just a cash person. I said, well, in the way that you're operating, you're in transactional riches. I really thought that you knew what you were saying when you said that you were becoming a private lender. I said, because as a private lender, you would have given him the same 50 to 100,000 with a specific interest. And if you had had the excellency of knowledge in Empirenomics, you would have known that you could have done something else called a shared appreciational mortgage, where you not only get interest on your money, but you would have also been able to receive a share of the profit. But more importantly than any of that is that you would have something called a promissory note. And that promissory note is a contract between you and your friend, the investor, him promising to pay you a certain amount of interest and profit over a period of time. It could be 1 year, it can be 2 years, it could be whatever the terms that the two of you mutually agree, because, ladies and gentlemen, we have the power to contract. It is our constitutional right to contract privately. And so when you begin to learn how to exercise your constitutional right to do that privately, you can create wealth through your private contracts. And so when he looked at me, he says, what did you say that I can get payments every month? I said, you set the terms and conditions. I said, just imagine this. You put that $100,000 out to work and you're receiving, let's just say hypothetically, 10% a year on the 100,000. So that's $10,000. Let's just make it 12,000 to keep the math simple for you guys. That's $12,000 a year. That's $1,000 per month. You will be contractually go to bed at night knowing that between the 1st and the 15th of the month, he would have to render you a check for $1,000 if you didn't get out of bed or not. And here's the best part about that. You have collateralization against your money in the event of a lack of performance. He said, wow, I didn't know. This is just powerful. I had no idea this can happen. So do you guys see how if you begin in this pivot, learn how to create contractual wealth, you can predict it. It's not nominal. It's not pro forma. It is actual. You can take that to the bank, or you can go to bed and put your mint at rest, and you can create wealth for yourself. So I want you to really understand the difference between a commission and a contractual wealth, okay? A contract, again, over time. Because yes, you could have a commission that's connected to a contract, but it's a one-time event. whereas contractual wealth is continuity. We call this continuity income, if you will. All right, I'm hoping you're excited about that. Now, again, this is about creating wealth. And I asked you guys before in the chat, I'm going to come back and talk to you guys about that when I share screens again. But let's talk about the wealth equation, because ultimately, a part of your lifestyle compliancy is you want the freedom of money and time, and that's composed as being wealth. And so I'm going to share with you, as a deeper look into wealth accumulation, how that looks. So now, first I want you to understand is that there are major forces that are eroding your wealth. And we call that and you're getting some mastermind conversation here, but we believe that this is critical for you to be in a position to have a better understanding of what I'm saying. It's called TO, taxes, interest, inflation, and opportunity costs. And most people, as you can see on the board, on the screen here, most people pay inflation. Most people pay interest. Most people pay taxes, and most people miss out on opportunities and never knew that there was a measurement to do so. But now let's look at those who are receiving on the wealth equation. The Federal Reserve System, they're reaping that because every time a dollar, a FRN, a Federal Reserve note is created, they create what is called a Fed rate, and they have to, and if they're paying interest, or interest is being paid to them, and so they're receiving interest, and they also can create hyperinflation by printing more money, by devaluing the value of the dollar, they're getting more inflation there. All right. Interest, I mentioned to you before, financial institutions, Fed Reserve, ultra wealthy, and also Empirenomics-preneurs. We're on the right side of this wealth equation because we understand contractual wealth. We understand what creating wealth pairs are all about, and we understand what opportunity cost is. So as you can see here, my question to you is this: what side of the equation are you on? And it's okay if you're on the left, but our goal is to help you pivot to the right. Does that make sense? By showing the challenge, that makes sense to everyone. It's pivoting from the paying side of these things that erode your wealth to the receiving end. Does that make sense? So now you have a really clear understanding of the difference between chasing riches and amassing wealth. And wealth is measured over time. Once again, it's not quick and it's not easy and it's not for the faint-hearted, but if you have the excellence of knowledge and you apply the principles in the right manner, you'll have wisdom with wealth. Okay? So again, my question to you is this. I said it was going to be short and sweet. We're not going to keep you here long because the information is so powerful. You only need bites of it. And so I've just given you several solutions. If you're on the left side of that wealth equation, you can transpose to the other side just by doing one of two things. Start engaging in contractual wealth situations as opposed to transactional riches. It's just a matter of a shift of paradigm. So my question to you, are you guys ready to make that pivot? If you are, again, for those of you who are on this call tonight, you have an opportunity to receive what I would call a prophetic forecast breakthrough. And if you were introduced by one of the certified Empirenomics coaches, then get back to them by all means. And if you do happen to click that button, it's going to ask you who referred you, and we'll know who that is anyway. But again, that breakthrough will help you to help me find out where you're stuck. Where are you right now? Understand your current present condition and devise the possibilities, the plan, and the process to get you to the next side. That's what this conversation is about. I'm going to encourage you guys again to follow me so that you can get this free information on a weekly basis and so on. So now I'm going to open up the call, field some questions. I have a strong feeling that there's a lot of questions that needs to be asked, and I'm just going to go ahead and field some questions. So anyone has questions? Anybody? Any questions at all? Okay, I think I have 9K per month X vehicle. Okay, gotcha. All right, not getting any younger. Some of others, okay, great. So are there any other primary questions that you have in the distinction between transactional riches and contractual wealth? Any question at all on that? Because I really want to make sure we get this. And again, I'm going to urge you guys, for those of you who are new, for being patient with me, because I can be long-winded. For those of you who are in our mastermind, they know we go 2-3 hours at sometimes. Really take advantage of this complimentary breakthrough. It's a value that I normally charge $2,500 to sit down for an hour and to really devise a plan of action. And I'm just going to say, take advantage of it now. And for those of you who haven't, do that. And I'm looking forward to helping usher you to that point. Okay, so we have a question. Let's see what that question says here. Okay, so the question is, what is the best way to structure yourself as an entity to engage in contractual wealth? Well, here's what I would say to that. I always start with this. Determine and define your destination, because your destination will procure a very clear and concise direction. So depending on where you're going and you're engaging, let's say real estate or something, I would probably advocate LLC. And from there, only because of the pass-through component where you can have limited liability, but also only pay taxes on the personal side, as opposed to a corporation receiving double taxation. Okay, another question. Okay, how much time a week would you have to invest on top of managing current businesses? Okay, well, again, let's look at it from this perspective. You are the business, and you should never be working in the business. You should be working on the business. And so we're talking about that paradigm shift once again. You want to transcend from being the CEO to being the chairman. So the question is, how much hours are you going to think as opposed to invest your time? Does that make sense? Okay, any other questions? I hope I answered most of those questions that was filling for you, but I'm excited, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here to say to you, when you apply these principles, your life will change. Okay, it was a question asked by Billy. Can you jump from transactional riches to contractual wealth without wealth? Absolutely. It's just a matter of changing how you engage in the process, in the transaction. Absolutely. Without a doubt. And again, wealth is measured over time. And again, once you learn leverage, OP, and fill in the blank, you'll never have to worry about that. You'll be able to leverage other things to amass wealth. So yes, you can do that with or without wealth. It's just a matter of a paradigm shift and have certain contracts in place, no matter what it is. It can be real estate, it can be businesses, it could be doing business with a friend. Once you learn the process, which we call a high premium income strategies, you'll be able to do that. All right, any other questions? Let's see. Nope, it looks like that's all the questions now. I guess it's either I'm very good or you guys are shy. Any other questions? If not, we'll wrap it up. Again, I want you guys to enjoy your festive season right now, your Passover season, going into your Easter weekend. And I know that, trust me in this, your family, my family, I want the best for you all. And I just want you all to be safe, be healthy, and stay connected. Again, I'm going to encourage you, if you didn't follow me yet, please follow me. Feel free to share the information. Again, sharing is caring. Each one teach one is very imperative to do that. And we're building a community of like-minded individuals who really want this social mobility, who no longer want to accept mediocrity as a form of life, or tired of exchanging their time for minuscule wages. It's time that we become self-reliant. It's time that we become self-governed in this capacity and create the wealth that we desire in those empires that are lifestyle compliant. So once again, my name is Al Mills. I thank you all for coming out. And again, I'm going to keep them short and brief. We're not going to be here long with dissertations, but I thank you all for coming out and allowing me to speak with you. So you guys have a wonderful Easter weekend, and I look forward to speaking to you in the weeks to come. Have a great one.